Okay. Can y'all hear me now? And low frame rate. Really? I don't know why it would be a low frame rate. Is it a low frame rate for real? That's weird. It's not showing buggy on my side. Let me check what's going on. Thanks for letting me know, guys. That's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. It's better now? Oh, maybe it has something to do with with my microphone because the wrong microphone was connected. So yeah, that's crazy. Y'all just let me talk like that for 2 minutes. We good now, y'all. We good now. Thanks for letting me know, guys. This is why I got to check in to make sure that y'all can hear me. Anyway, so thank you all. Let's do that from the top. Thank you all for tuning into this live stream segment of For the People podcast. Before we even get started, make sure you like this video. Like, share. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe. I promise, usually we start with audio. This is a rare case that we forgot to change the audio. Audio connected to some random shit. I don't know what it is. But we're here now. We're gonna talk today about the Epstein Files. Yep. There's gonna be some I told you so. So you can go ahead and prepare for that. Because I told you. We're gonna save it. Okay? Don't talk about it. Yeah, national security reasons. Yeah, it's going to be good, guys. We're also going to talk about the Zelensky Trump stuff because I know it was Friday, but y'all thought I was going to let that shit slide. No. That shit was hilarious. And certainly you need to laugh. I need to laugh. So we're definitely going to get into it, but we're also going to be talking about the reactions to the Trump Zelensky interaction because the reactions have been hilarious. Kind of psychopathic a little bit, definitely begging for nuclear war, but still hilarious nonetheless, especially given who the reactions are coming from. Also, we're going to talk about the potential peace deal that kind of slid to the background. It was kind of done under the radar. It wasn't really done under the radar, but it happened and nobody really talked about it. But it's because it was only involving France, the UK, and Zelensky. So once again, we're going to be dealing with this issue of like trying to create a peace deal, but not involving both parties that are involved in the war to be a part of the peace deal. Like, I don't know how you think you can achieve peace by only inviting one side. That's not, especially the side but you don't invite the side that's winning. You invite the side that doesn't have any leverage whatsoever. So we're going to talk about that. Also, the fact that it seemed like the UK is trying to sabotage peace between Russia and Ukraine again. And then we're going to talk about Trump stomping on free speech. Just proof once again. Really, I guess half of this episode is going to be proof once again that for every good thing that Trump or his administration might do, they will undermine it by serving fucking Israel. Anything positive Trump will do, literally, he will undermine it the next day to serve the interests of Israel. Like, what? Bruh. I'm like, y'all, when y'all see his little true social, whatever you want to call it, tweet or whatever, like, y'all gonna be like, bruh, come on. Because there have been so many people celebrating this man for being a pro-free speech or whatever the hell. No. Don't confuse someone being pro-free speech for their side with being pro-free speech. We've talked about this with the Democrats. We've talked about this with the Republicans and Trump specifically. Like, don't confuse being pro-free speech from my side with being pro-free speech. A lot of people will claim to be free speech absolutists. A lot of people will claim to be Thomas Massie, which is probably the only politician in all of Washington who I have respect for. A lot of people will claim to be Thomas Massie, but in reality, they're not. Right? So, Eric, what's going on, man? Thank you for the super chat. Trump grabs Zelensky by the... He did more than that. Jesus Christ. That was embarrassing. So, first, we got to check out this exchange, y'all. We got to. Because Lord baby Jesus, I really don't know what Zelensky was trying to achieve when you actually like go back and like listen to what he said, because people, I'm a firm believer that Trump's reaction to Zelensky was actually justified. I actually believe his reaction was perfectly justified. Now, all the dick riding by his staff and all that happened afterwards. Like, okay, we get it. Like, y'all trying to ride the train now, and you know, once again, MAGA's an economy, so everybody trying to ride the train. But like, Trump's reaction genuinely was justified, and I'm gonna explain to you why after we watch this clip.
Even today, you went to Pennsylvania.
You can hear it, or if y'all cannot hear it, by the way.
Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war,
he's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country is in big trouble.
Can I answer?
No, you've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks in this cabinet, and not only in this cabinet.
We gave you through this.
So he said from the very beginning of this conflict, we've been alone. That's not true, right? I think that we all agree. From the very beginning of this conflict, they had, first of all, we know they had the help now of the USAID. I mean, not just since the beginning of this conflict, but at least since 2014. So we know just monetarily that you've been getting help. I mean, hell, we know for a lot of reasons y'all been getting help from the United States, but not just militarily, but literally we've been funding your phony media apparatus that's just a bunch of propagandists convincing people that this war is justified. That sending Ukrainians to the meat grinder is justified. And y'all even tried to convince people. Remember, for the longest, they actually tried to convince people that they were winning? Yeah. We know that there have been soldiers from all over the world, actually, not just the United States, that have gone to Ukraine. They actually have to kind of undercut NATO being directly involved and to undercut each individual NATO nation from being implicated in a war with Russia, right? Instead of directly sending their troops, they joined this Ukrainian legion, this foreign legion. And so whenever this soldier from whatever country dies, they don't get, their family isn't called by the United States or Germany or France or the UK. They're called by the Ukrainian embassy, because that's already happened. I covered that story. So we were even sending troops to a war that to a military theater that shouldn't have had troops sent, because we're not supposed to be involved, because we don't like nuclear war. And what you're begging for by sending U.S. troops, right, or NATO sending troops in general, is a nuclear war. So you haven't been alone. That's a lie. You've been getting funded. You haven't been alone. And in fact, many of us would argue that's the fucking problem, is that Ukraine and Zelensky specifically keep getting emboldened by NATO just enough to keep pissing off Russia, which is why this war hasn't come to an end. Because if you truly were alone, which is, I mean, why are you walking around begging people for money if you've been alone? Who are all these people you're begging money from? Who are all these countries you're begging money from and getting it if you've been alone? You haven't been alone. That's the point. That's what everybody's been trying to say. Like, bro, you out here looking like a beggar for a war you can't win. So people don't even know why the money's going there. The elites know that started the war, but you haven't been alone.
Stupid president, $350 billion.
We
gave you military equipment, and you men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin.
It was over in 2 weeks.
Maybe less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yeah.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of times
to
American people.
Except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's
I
very
understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful.
Did you hear that? Bruh. Boy, that man, you gotta admit, he's slick. Trump is a slick puller because he's like, yeah, that's why I kept going for so long. He wanted to expose Zelensky. He wanted to show how Zelensky has been trying to emotionally manipulate politicians, manipulate the media, use the United States media to persuade the American people, to coax their politicians, beg their politicians, yell at their politicians to send money, continue sending money to Ukraine. So, like JD was like, oh, we could have litigated this behind closed doors. Like, we shouldn't do this all in front of the media. I mean, I hate to agree with JD Vance, but he is correct. This is something that should have been litigated behind closed doors to avoid egos getting involved or egos getting hurt because they're getting embarrassed in front of the whole country or really in front of the whole world. But Trump was like, no. I kept it going for so long because I wanted y'all to see how this man does. I wanted y'all to see the shit we got to deal with when we interact with him and engage with him. He's not engaging in good faith, and he's unappreciative, at least seemingly unappreciative, for what we've already done that shouldn't have been done. He's like, we shouldn't even, basically Trump's like, we shouldn't even have done this for you, but we did it anyway, and this is how you're thanking us, with thinly veiled threats, which we'll get to in a second. Sparky, thank you for the super chat. Some say the dim neocons told Zelensky to behave the way he did, in the mistaken idea that President Trump would somehow respect it or otherwise go with Zelensky's globalist. What? Why would someone think that? You're not about to go toe-to-toe with Trump in the media, challenge his ego, and then walk out. That is not how shit works. That man loves himself too much, and he respects his brand too much to let some shit like that slide. That's crazy if somebody actually told him to do that. But you know what? It's not that crazy to believe, because someone also told him to go to continue the bullshit he was continuing and to publicly announce that he was seeking accession into NATO, knowing that would mean war with Russia and that they couldn't win that. So you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe Dims did say because Zelensky seems to be pretty. He has a trend of following horrible advice from the Democratic establishment. So it's a possibility.
You don't have the cards. You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it. So the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire?
But I said to you,
I want a
with
ceasefire
guarantees.
because you get a ceasefire faster than.
So first of all, apparently she's a representative for Ukraine in the United States. She's the ambassador. You see her reaction, yo? It was at that moment that she knew Zelensky done fucked up. She was like, oh my God, just stop talking. For the love of God, stop. Stop. Shut up. Stop talking. Bro, look at the frustration on her face. She's like, shut up. Chris C, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you. Hey, Niko, support as always. Zelensky has consistently been high on his ego, wanting money and nuclear proliferation. He is very dangerous. High on his ego and also high on some other stuff. Yeah, but I 100% agree. What's crazy is like you could tell he's like kind of like this insecure little man by the way he carries himself and the way he talks and the way like, you just kind of can tell. He gives off like little dick energy, like just he knows he's only in the position he's in because he's allowed to be in it and he is serving someone else's interests, and he is aware that everyone else is aware of that. Right? You could tell. So like he tried to put on that tough guy act in front of Trump. Yeah, it didn't really work out. Because say what you want, you don't got like Trump. But in Trump's mind, Trump is not pretending to be who he is. This is who he is. He's not pretending. For all his faults, we can't be like, oh yeah, Trump is faking. This is an act. This isn't who Trump really is. No, that is him being an egomaniac who literally shouts down people who try to disrespect him publicly before politics and after. This is who he is. This is who he's shown himself to be during the debates in 2015, 2016, in 2020, in 2024. Like, this is who this, during his acting career, while on TV, like, this is who he is. Zelensky is literally a comedian pretending to be president. So.
Ask our people about his fire, what they see.
Hey, really quick shout out to that cameraman who panned over there, bruh. I don't know if somebody tapped him on the shoulder, but yeah. So that man got some acute awareness of his surroundings because he knew. Oh shit, let me get a pan real quick.
With me. That was with a guy named Biden. That was with a
our people about his fire, what they see.
That wasn't with me. That wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden who was not a smart person. That was your president.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those things. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr.
Hey, that's true.
Even today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October.
Oh, let me see.
Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war,
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
So I'm not sure if you can hear it clearly there, but at one point, basically Zelensky was like, well, you know, things are good for you now, but like, if you don't do something, if you don't continue supporting us, then, who knows? Who knows what could happen? And that's kind of what started that whole interaction. It basically, like, from my perspective, that came off like a thinly veiled threat. Like, how many European countries are willing to go to bat for me? Like, it basically looked like, and not to mention, like, this is the same Ukraine that has committed terror. Hell, Ukraine is so desperate, they'll commit terrorist attacks against themselves. Right? We've seen it already. They will not only commit terrorist attacks in Russia, use their soldiers to commit terrorist attacks or support terrorism in other countries, but they'll literally commit terrorist attacks against themselves. So what it sounded like was that Zelensky was threatening Trump. If you don't continue, then this is going to happen. Like, you never know. You can't say you never know to a New Yorker. For a New Yorker, that is a threat. That's the only way you could take that. It could have been just an English, like a second language issue, right? I get that. It could have been that. But given Zelensky and given how the conversation unfolded, like, just completely, like, it sounded like a thinly veiled threat, which explains their reaction. There's only one way you're going to take that if you're in Trump's position. At the end of the day, for all of Trump's faults, he understands two things. He seems to understand two things. Zelensky and Ukraine, they're draining taxpayer dollars. And no one has offered, but like with them and their side, no one has offered a genuine solution for what they're going to do with the taxpayer dollars and the weapons and everything that we're giving them. And the threat of nuclear war, because that's what that really is, the threat of World War III. He's like, bro, you're gambling with World War III. He is absolutely right. You're insane if you think otherwise. Everyone has been saying this shit. Like, yo, are we for real right now? That's why it was such a big deal when they started finding U.S. Ranger uniforms or U.S. dead U.S. soldiers with Ranger Battalion tattoos, because you are playing with fate. If World War III happens, it ain't going to be Ukraine that's going to be doing the majority of the fighting. And Zelensky probably knows that. But it will be Ukraine gets a lot of funding that they otherwise wouldn't have, just so NATO powers could have a base there. Maybe a lot of security. I mean, but like your country would be obliterated, so it wouldn't really matter. So that they, as you all know, Zelensky left. The rest of the press conference was actually canceled, so they didn't take questions. And I could only take this as like Trump disciplining his child. That's the only way, bruh. I was like, yo, did this really just happen like this? That's wild. I can't wait to see what everybody else says. That's the first thing I thought, because I'm like, yo, I know that this is actually hilarious. People were trying to compare this to, bro, there's been this weird thing online, at least on Twitter, where people are comparing Palestine to Ukraine. They have a Ukrainian flag and a Palestinian flag in their bio. You have lost your fucking mind. Do not be one of those people. These are not the same things. Okay? They're not. Not even close. Not even close, y'all. How much aid do we give to Palestine? How much weapons do we give to Palestine? Oh, okay. Do we call Netanyahu a dictator trying to invade? Oh, okay. Don't even think about comparing the two. But then it was the constant, matter of fact, you know what? This, look. NATO did an emergency meeting 48 hours after Trump's hard turn towards Russia. An emergency meeting of NATO countries plus Ukraine without the United States. The world moving on without the U.S. First of all, let me show y'all this. That is so cute, y'all. This is cute. It's cute. It's cute for NATO to actually, and I would be thrilled if the United States left NATO. But it is actually cute that NATO believes in their heart of hearts that they could exist and or be effective without the United States. That is cute as hell. I ain't gonna lie. NATO only exists to serve the interests of the United States. Anything else, any benefits that other countries have experienced, any auxiliary benefits that have come about because of NATO's formation for other countries like France, for example, the UK in some cases, it is only a byproduct of serving the interests of the United States. NATO was formed to undermine Russia. That part specifically was obviously because the United States was competing to be the number one economic military power in the world, but also because the UK didn't want the threat of Russia. Economically as well. Militarily, they couldn't really do anything if they wanted to anyway. Not without the help of the US. France wanted to maintain its power and control over colonies and economies in Africa. People forget about that part. Which couldn't be done because like not by themselves without the help of NATO. It's specifically United States powers and the United States military power and the UK's military power alongside France's. Okay. I mean, hell, they couldn't even hold on to Haiti, right? So, but at the end of the day, NATO was formed at the behest of the United States. The United States makes up officially 16% of NATO's budget. It's the most by far. The second is UK, I think third is France. But 16% is the most by far. Now, right now, or really over the last maybe 4 to 5 years, what has NATO done? Even with the assistance of the United States, that has been successful. What major victory? Because, back in the day, unfortunately, the reality is NATO used to be a powerhouse. It was scary. thinking about what NATO was able to get away with because of the countries that were involved. Anytime if they flipped that switch, it was over. Look at what they did in Libya. That officially, that was a NATO-backed coalition and a NATO-backed operation. Y'all do know that, right? Hell, look what they did to the USSR. That was a NATO operation. They balkanized it using soft power, hard power, propaganda, CIA, and intelligence assets from all over NATO. I mean, that was a complete and total Iran. The overthrow of what's his name? The first democratically elected president of Iran. What was his name? Can't remember. I'll get back to it. But yeah, NATO used to have a consistent pattern of just dominance. If they wanted your country, if they wanted your resources, they just took it. Because even if you were a strong country, right? Are you strong enough to take on 6, 7? Mossadegh, thank you. Appreciate it. The first democratically elected president of Iran was Mossadegh, yeah. But if NATO wanted your countries, or wanted your country's resources, wanted your leader overthrown, wanted to upend your democracy, conquer your government, you might be strong enough to wage war against one country, but you can't wage war against all of them, all the NATO powers. They're unlimited, seemingly unlimited funding because of the United States and whatever terrorists they put in your country as a result of whatever they want to do. So the thing that has changed, however, is that even with the United States' help, look at what's happening in Africa right now. NATO tried to keep Burkina Faso. How's that going for him? Shout out to my man, Tour. That boy's going crazy. Shout out to Burkina Faso. And Niger. How'd that work out for him? Remember whenever that Niger situation happened? They took back their government from France, kicked everybody out like Burkina Faso did. Kicked out France specifically. Took control of all their resources. And NATO kept doing this, kept talking. France kept doing this, kept talking. Y'all can't, here's what we gonna do. Yeah, shut the fuck up, get out. Yeah, and they were waiting. Niger, Burkina Faso, they were waiting. They were like, okay, we're waiting for y'all. Come back. We dare y'all to do something about it. Come back and try to take, nope. You know what? We think we're gonna sit this one out. Y'all can't take back the governments of Niger and Burkina Faso. And there's a couple others. Think about that. They had to get France was completely and totally dependent on Niger and Burkina Faso. Their energy, it's like 70% of some shit like that of their energy came from Burkina Faso and Niger, specifically Niger. Y'all, their survival depends, their economy depends on it, and they still couldn't take it back, and NATO couldn't help them do it. That's with the United States being part of NATO. So if Trump decides, yeah, we're out, peace. The empire breaks. It's already breaking down. And that's due partly to multipolarity. People are just tired of they've realized the problem is NATO. They've realized the problem is Western imperialism specifically. And they've organized with each other and form alliances to stave off the empire. But without NATO, there is no empire. That is a fucking fact. Without NATO, there is no empire. Without the United States, there is no NATO. So pretending like you're going to move forward without the United States, and because they want peace, understand, NATO allegedly was put together as a defensive measure. Think about that. A defensive measure. Trump is trying to bring peace between two countries, none of which actually belong to NATO, by the way, allegedly. And they're like, yeah, we gotta back away from the United States on this one to pursue war. And in an offensive way. Because right, we know like NATO was involved in the Maidan coup, and we know that NATO's funding this war. We know that this is all about NATO. Like Russia would not be there if it wasn't for Ukraine pronouncing that they were going to try to join NATO, right? So, but yeah, everything that y'all are doing is offensive. The first time somebody's like, yeah, man, we're going, because truthfully, Trump is reacting defensively. He's like, bro, he's seen the information. Somebody's crunched the numbers. You can look at the economy over the last 4 years, or not only in the United States, around the world. And they know, y'all. He like, I don't know what everybody in it, or at least the last administration, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. You know how many problems can be solved by us not being enemies of Russia? Has anyone ever thought about that? By ending this war? Matter of fact, now that I'm thinking about it, it might be a good thing to be strategic allies with either the first or second largest military superpower in the world. Maybe that's actually a good thing. I can't think of anything bad that could come from it, but I can think of a huge, that's why nobody can tell you. No one can actually tell you what will be bad about, like no one in the mainstream media, no one in the establishment, no one who's anti-Russia, anti-Putin. They can't give you a single reason as to why it would be bad to be strategic, economic, and military allies with Russia. That would be the smartest move Trump has ever actually made. That might be the smartest move any president has actually made in the last 50 years. That would be a genius move. You would be ensuring your own survival if you allied with Russia, actually. Right? I mean, anybody disagree with that? Because if you do, I would love to hear your rationale. Let me continue to support Ukraine, who can't even support themselves, on behalf of NATO, that can't even maintain themselves anymore. They can't get simple they can't achieve simple victories anymore. And y'all want me to ally with losers instead of allying with Russia? Yeah, I think I'm gonna take my chances with fucking Russia, who the entire world tried to sanction, at least the entire Western world. The entire Western world tried to sanction them, and they survived. Not only did they survive, their economy came out stronger because of it. Think about that. Yeah, okay. But NATO, we're ready to move on without the U.S. Yeah, okay. Bro, look at this dude. I thought this was a satire. Unfortunately for all of us, it was not.
I don't give a fuck what he wears. This man has been respected.
He's talking about that reporter that was like, how come you don't ever wear suits? Talking to Zelensky.
To every leader in the world. Everybody. And you clowns want to fucking do that shit to him when he comes over here. And then talk to him like shit and kick him out of the White House. You fucking disgraceful son of a bitches. Man, I just want to be next to Zelensky right now. I wish I could talk to him. Forgive us.
Yeah.
God damn, man. I can't. Sorry, y'all. I can't believe what I just witnessed in our White House.
Bruh. You ever see something? Like when videos start like that, usually waiting for the punchline. Like I'm like, damn, bro. I know they're gonna get me in the first half, but I already seen this. I know how this is gonna end. He about to flip the script on me, right? Bruh, I just sat there for like 2 minutes after the video, like just sitting there waiting. I'm like, maybe let me look it up. Maybe somebody cut out the punchline to try to make a point. Nah, this man was wholly serious. He was dead ass serious. The part that he said about the suit was hilarious. Cause it's like the because the reporter basically like, matter of fact, and why are you always dressing like a fucking bum? That's kind of like what he said, basically. And there are some people who are like, well, nah, suits are elitist. So I'm like, well, let's be clear. Zelensky is an elite. It's the reason that people want to know why he is always walking around dressed up like he's about to go to war, dressed up in a tracksuit or whatever, is because like you're out here pretending as if you aren't robbing us blind. Like the least you could do is dress appropriately. Dress for the part. Take your ass to Goodwill if you got to. It ain't hard to buy, especially for a billionaire or a millionaire. Tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars have gone into your pocket. Buy a suit. Stop with this act like you're out there in the field, like you out there in the trenches, dog. Like nobody believes you. That's why they're asking him that. Because it's all an act. That's why you're dressed like that. And everybody knows it. It would be different if he was like genuinely poor. If he was like, so the president of Burkina Faso is always in ACUs, or we call them ACUs because I'm ex-military, but like he's always in a military uniform. He is part, I don't know if he still considers himself to be part of the military, but he was part of the military. But he doesn't dress fancy. He wears the same clothes every day. But he's in his military uniform. Because his whole thing is, I'm spending personally, not just as a country, I personally, as a president, am spending as little as I can because every bit needs to go to the people of Burkina Faso. I understand that. That makes 100% sense. Also, it's a military uniform, so I get that. Like he's actually going to war. He fought for his country. That's not Zelensky. But like, bro, you really crying over this? That's a thing? Y'all really doing this? I didn't. Okay, that's cool. That's weird. Some weird shit, y'all. It's strange times. And then you got these people. Let me show y'all this. Y'all see this? People were out, supposedly, this weekend, doing pro-Ukraine protests across the United States. Now, they say across the United States, but they only really showed a video of New York. And I want to be very clear about something. I don't believe this shit at all. I mean, there might be some actual Ukrainians there. Who knows? That's probably the extent of it. But that's definitely an AstroTurf campaign because I just find it extremely hard to believe that Americans are going to get up on they free weekend, okay, and just get out there and start protesting like, hey, Trump, why won't you spend our money to continue this war in a country I didn't even know existed until 2 or 3 years ago? I demand. My homeboy Nick, y'all know Nick Cruz. He put out a tweet saying Democrats and liberals be like, what do we want? War. When do we want it? Nah. Because effectively, that's like, what are you protesting? That's the only thing that I can think of. That is the protest, right? If you're protesting for Trump to continue, or for Trump to continue this funding Ukraine, you're effectively protesting for more. In that case, can you call it a protest? Because you're out there to support somebody. Protest is usually when like you're against something, right? Well, you're against peace. That's crazy. That's a weird thing to get out there and protest about. But nah, I firmly believe that this was an AstroTurf campaign. I believe that. Like, you're not going to convince me. Like, the Democrats are really bad at AstroTurfing, y'all. Y'all know that. They have been doing it more and more, and they've only been doing it in very specific situations, namely when it's Trump in office. Let me see if I can find that tweet from Nick. I think he commented under this saying, like, I bet. Yeah, he did. He said, I bet we'll see zero police breaking these protests up. And he was correct. And I said, nope, the police are probably doing security for him. That's not a real protest. This is as much of a real protest as what? The Women's March, some shit? It's not a real protest, y'all. Y'all really believe that? Y'all believe people out there being like, yeah, man, spend my money, spend my money, spend my money. What? On Ukraine. Nah, not buying it. Sorry. I'm just not gonna believe that. I don't believe that. Like, it is like just neat. And also, I said, hey man, who just got Ukrainian flags at their crib? I said, you know what? That's a damn good point. Who just got Ukrainian flags just chilling at their crib? When did y'all go to the Ukrainian flag store? Who just has a bunch of Ukrainian flags? They probably showed up at that protest and picked that shit up out of a box and started hanging it. Them flags is crispy. Look at it. Them flags is crispy. They still got the wrinkles on them. Who got Ukraine? You just got Ukrainian flags hanging on your crib? Nah, bro. I'm sorry. Not buying that. We're not buying that over here. Like I said, the reactions to peace are insane. Look at this. Y'all want to look at this muff Bernie, y'all. This man has been just on a roll. On a roll. And I'm gonna tell you why I keep talking. I was tired of talking about him. I really am. I'm still tired of talking about him. But there's a reason I have to keep talking about Bernie when he's engaging in this ridiculously disastrous rhetoric. But first, we're gonna check out this video.
Do you think that President Zelensky needs to resign in order for there to be a peace deal?
I think that is a horrific suggestion. Zelensky is leading a country trying to defend democracy against an authoritarian dictator, Putin, who invaded his country. And I think millions of Americans are embarrassed, are ashamed that you have a president of the United States who says that Ukraine started the war, that Zelensky is a dictator. He's got it exactly backwards.
Can I be really honest with y'all? Can I be like totally honest? Just like not speaking about myself, but like the general United States population. I would say that 80% of the US population actually doesn't give a fuck that he said that. Like, I'm just being honest. They don't care. Like if you go to somebody randomly on the street and be like, hey man, y'all know it was actually Ukraine who started which is kind of inaccurate to some degree because it was really the United States, right? I think we all know that. But just speaking, he's saying like you let the United States manipulate you into starting this war, basically, is what he's saying. But like if you go to the average person and say that, they don't give a shit. They're like, oh, Americans are embarrassed. Nope, most of them don't care. They do not care.
The people of Ukraine have got it exactly back. Started the war, that Zelensky is a dictator. He's got it exactly backwards. The people of Ukraine have lost tens of thousands of soldiers. Their cities are being bombed as we speak. And our job is to defend the 250-year tradition that we have of being the democratic leader of the world, not turn our backs on a struggling country that is trying to do the right thing.
Yeah. 250-year tradition, guys, of defending democracy. The guy who was cheated 2 times, not once, but twice. 2 times. He said we got a 250-year tradition of defending democracy. I don't honestly know where it's like we already know like the Zelensky dictator shit. Like Putin's not a dictator. I'm sorry. Like you can't be just because he keeps winning elections does not mean he's a dictator. I don't know why we keep that like that. But you know, like I said, if Putin really wanted to work with the United States, he should probably become a dictator because those seem to be the only people we want to work with. Right? Like if you are a dictator, if you are genuinely and legitimately a dictator, you have a higher likelihood of getting U.S. approval, of having U.S. support, of having NATO support you. Like, look at our support in Saudi Arabia, UAE, Jordan. Right? Like, we actually love dictators. So if he was actually a dictator in this situation, he would have our support. I mean, in this very situation, we're literally supporting the dictator. We're the ones who gave Zelensky, because as I explained before, I don't know if you all have heard this before. If this is your first time tuning in, this might be your first time hearing this, because really no one else has brought up this point. So the martial law that Zelensky implemented in order to maintain power and cancel elections was actually passed by the puppet government of the United States in 2015. So this is after the 2014 Maidan coup. In other words, it was passed by the United States for whatever president that would be in charge of Ukraine to be able to use it for the interests of the United States. In other words, this path to dictatorial authoritarian leadership that Zelensky has taken has been paid by the United States. I know, it's like I said, if Putin really wanted the assistance and the allyship of the United States, all he would have to do is actually become a fucking dictator. Anyway, there is a reason they keep using Bernie Sanders. Y'all have y'all noticed that? I've had to bring up Bernie and his comments on Ukraine and his comments on Putin consistently over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Really since Trump's gotten in office, but especially over the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's because they keep marching him out. And we know when the media, and specifically the Democratic Party, marches Bernie out, it's to serve a purpose. Right? Okay. Now, I want you all to think about the last 10 years. It's crazy to think it's been that long. But since at least 2014, 2015, Bernie Sanders has painted an image of himself as being an anti-war politician. Now, that image is as false as this claim that the United States spent 250 years defending democracy. Okay? Stick with me now. Okay. He has cultivated that anti-war image so well that people actually believe him if they don't do their own research. So they believe, ladies and gentlemen, that if Bernie Sanders is claiming that Russia is the one who started this war and that we have to be against Russia if we want to prevent some massive Russia imperialist agenda from taking place, then they'll believe it. If they believe that, they'll believe Bernie Sanders' stance is the anti-war stance. That's what the establishment thinks will happen. You get what I'm saying? That's what the Democrats believe will happen. Because Bernie Sanders has cultivated this anti-war image and they're using it. That's what they always do that with Bernie, right? All the credit and clout that he has built up over the last 8 to 9 years, they use it against the very people who supported him. And now the people who supported him, a lot of them don't support him anymore. However, the general audience believes in Bernie Sanders, or at least believes he's a genuine person, because that was his whole brand. But the problem with that is, if you actually look at Bernie Sanders' record, his actual record, you would know that he's doing what he's actually always done, which is defend NATO no matter what. Defend NATO's operations no matter what. For example, y'all remember whenever Hillary Clinton had to remind Bernie Sanders that he too voted to overthrow Gaddafi. Not only that, but he voted for the UN to get involved in Libya to help overthrow Gaddafi because he was trying to criticize her for being part of that operation to overthrow Gaddafi. She was the architect of it. Remember, we saw, he died. With that fucking witch cackle. Yeah, he supported that. He just forgot because, he's put on this anti-war. He had put on that anti-war mask and he actually convinced himself that he was actually anti-war and anti-regime change. And I want everybody to think about how insane that situation was. And Bernie was fully aware. Don't let him fool you into believing he wasn't. He was aware. But we have to remember the context. I think people sometimes forget the context of the overthrow of Gaddafi. Imagine, if you will, if Iran or Russia decided they were going to assassinate the elected chairman of the European Union because they're doing whatever they can to better the lives of Europeans all over the continent, to become independent economically, to use their resources from their countries in their interests and not the interests of others. You can't imagine something like that because that actually seems insane. Russia would never do something like that because the very concept of it is ludicrous, right? Yeah, except for that's basically exactly what happened in Libya. People seem to forget that. Muammar Gaddafi was the elected chairman of the African Union. He only stepped down shortly before he was assassinated because there was some kind of assurance that if he stepped down as the chairman of the African Union, that America would stay the fuck out of Africa. So even when he chose to step down, it was out of the interest of Africa. Now, the U.S. promptly used that as an excuse. That was their window to assassinate him. Because they understood that, if you assassinate the president of the African Union, it's probably a bad look. Now, don't get it twisted. They also don't even like to discuss the fact that there's an African Union, but there is. There is an African, it still exists, yeah. And Muammar Gaddafi was the elected chairman of the African Union and chose to step down, not because they didn't want him to be the chairman, but because Muammar Gaddafi was thinking about the interests of Africa. He was doing what he thought was best. And then they used that opportunity to assassinate him. Okay, Bernie supported that. He supported the assassination of the chairman of the African Union, even a former chairman of the African Union. Think about that. Okay. Interesting. And he supported the United States doing so. Invading another country from way, way away in defense of their democracy. Doesn't sound very democratic. Bernie Sanders loves to brag about how he had always been against the war in Iraq. How he had always known there were no weapons of mass destruction. How he had voted against going to Iraq. Yeah, that's a fucking lie. And I don't know why I don't know how he kept getting, oh, no, I do know why. Let me explain to you. So, yes, on the piece of legislation that ultimately passed, Bernie Sanders did vote against it. The one that led to us going into Iraq. But that was only after, ladies and gentlemen, he voted for the original legislation to go to war in Iraq. It was just that he had only supported going to war in Iraq under specific circumstances. Yeah. And that bill failed. That's why everyone is under the belief that Bernie Sanders voted against the war, because the bill that he voted to support the war on didn't pass. And he said that the terms were too broad on the bill that ultimately passed. But anyway, he was for regime change in Iraq, which is even probably worse, because if you're saying you knew, ladies, he's saying that he knew the entire time, that he never believed that there are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Never. Okay, you never believed that, but yet you were for going to war in Iraq anyway, just under the circumstances that you approved of? There are no circumstances in which we should have been going to war with Iraq. Bro, there was zero. Not a fucking reason. And we all know, I remember growing up in that time, I just kept hearing, like eventually it moved on from weapons of mass destruction to, well, there's terrorists there still. What? But that's not for nothing, but that's not why the fuck we were there. We weren't there to fight terrorism. That's not what you said. You said it was weapons of mass destruction. There weren't any, so leave. Yeah, well, now we got to conquer Saddam. Since we're here, might as well. And Bernie might have been shouting down the Iraq war in some instances and on TV, but he was still voting to send more military equipment and supporting for funding. He voted for legislation after legislation after legislation to continue funding because he got, well, I don't remember what, is it Boeing? One of the largest military contractors and weapons contractors builds planes in Vermont. So they add jobs to the economy there. And so, you know how that goes. Then there's the bombing of Kosovo. Yep. He supported that. And he used to say that remember how he would say for a long time, and I never supported the war in Afghanistan. And then he got corrected again and he had to renege because it was actually, it was only one person, all of Congress, Senate, and the House that was against going to Afghanistan. Was it Barbara Lee? I believe it was Barbara Lee. And Bernie he came out against it later. But he had convinced himself that he supported it initially, or that he was against it initially. So in actuality, there has not been a regime change war or a regime change, generally speaking, that the United States has been involved in that Bernie Sanders did not support. So, and specifically, there has not been a NATO operation that Bernie Sanders has not supported. Think about that. Right now, he isn't working on behalf of the United States. When he's doing these rounds, when he's putting out these videos on Twitter, when he's doing these interviews, when he's making these comments about Putin, he's not working for the United States. He's not even doing the work of the United States Senate. He is working on behalf of NATO. And that's been his consistent history. If you actually look at his history. This is not new for him. And if you look at a lot of the, like, I always found it interesting. I remember back in the day when I found out that he supported the overthrow of Gaddafi. And I had actually thought a little bit before I learned that he supported that. I had thought that it was like kind of bizarre. I'm like, damn, he was kind of loud about Iraq, but also that was kind of common at one point, right? The war in Iraq became wildly unpopular. It was very easy. That was like a low-hanging fruit. But I'm like, he was really loud about Iraq, but why wasn't he loud about the overthrow of Gaddafi? That's a good question. I didn't know why. Because it was actually hard to find legislation and find articles. Everything, I think back then, everything that came up about, if you try to look up anything about Gaddafi, it always came back as dictator, dictator, murderer, dictator, 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 murderer, dictator. It wasn't until Hillary Clinton made that comment that the facts started coming out, and you can start finding the links to the legislation that he voted on. So they're using an anti-war image that is fake. It is non-existent. It shouldn't exist. And they're trying to convince people that if this anti-war progressive Senator Bernie Sanders agrees that we should still be supporting Ukraine and should be against Putin, then you should as well. And he's effectively working on behalf of NATO. And I just want to remind everybody once again, look at the video. I want to play this interview once again, and I want y'all to answer me. What is missing here on Bernie's part? He said all that, but there's something missing.
Do you think that President Zelensky needs to resign in order for there to be a peace deal?
I think that is a horrific suggestion. Zelensky is leading a country trying to defend democracy against an authoritarian dictator, Putin, who invaded his country. And I think millions of Americans are embarrassed, are ashamed that you have a president of the United States who says that Ukraine started the war, that Zelensky is a dictator. He's got it exactly backwards. The people of Ukraine have lost tens of thousands of soldiers. Their cities are being bombed as we speak.
That's true.
And our job is to defend the 250-year tradition that we have of being the democratic leader of the world, not turn our backs on a struggling country that is trying to do the right thing.
Do the right thing. Okay. Yeah. So did y'all catch what was missing in that? What was his plan to end the war? What was his plan? He talked about all the people who were dying. Okay, so you were aware that there are soldiers being sent to the meat grinder. Tens of it's more like hundreds of thousands, by the way. Okay. So you're aware that there are people dying. I'm sure that he's acutely aware that NATO is funding this effort and that this war was started because of NATO. He knows that. But he says in the interview that he's aware of the people dying. Okay. You're aware that the buildings are being destroyed. You're aware of all of that. Okay. So wait until the end. So we just have a responsibility to keep funding all the things that you just said, because it's not like we would, if we started funding them, it wasn't like we just started funding or continue funding them, rather. It ain't like we just started funding them today. All that shit was happening with U.S. funding. Ukraine has been getting their asses whooped with U.S. funding, with U.S. weapons, with U.S. jets, with U.S. support. Not just support from us, even. But he's like, we got to continue funding all the stuff that we talked about. But there's no conclusion. There's no resolution. There is no, this is how this war ends. And that is what I am supporting. Nothing. And that is a consistent pattern, a consistent theme that you have seen. It's like a bunch of virtue signaling about Putin, blah, 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 democracy, blah, 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 dictatorship, blah, 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 authoritarian, and end. No conclusion. He didn't say how much money he wants to give. Like, is there a limit? Are we expected to just keep wanting to? Because you act like this ain't a couple $1 million, ladies and gentlemen. We have given billions with a B, billions. He's asking for billions more. Not millions, billions. Have you seen U.S.? Bro, the U.S. economy is trashed. Inflation has gotten insane. Gas prices and energy prices through the roof. And it's largely because of this war and the actions of Israel in the Middle East. Okay. What is the limit? How much of our money do you want to give away? How many people have to die before you are pro-peace, regardless of how you have to achieve it? How long can Zelensky maintain office without an election until he is actually a dictator? And how long will you support him through his authoritarian dictatorship? How many parties does he have to cancel before you admit that he's a dictator? All of them? Because that's what he did. How many journalists have to get killed or arrested? How many media companies have to be put into the dirt because they won't boost Zelensky in this war? Where's the limit? Every single one of these videos and then ... It's a bunch of ellipses. And that's why we have to keep supporting Ukraine ... Until, like, do you believe they have a chance to win? Do you believe they have a chance to win? Because if that's not what you're saying, then I'm confused. Do you support Ukraine until what? Until what? Until they join NATO? Oh, so you mean support Ukraine until World War III? Because that's what you're asking for. What? Where is the line? Listen for whenever you listen to these interviews, y'all, listen for it. Just wait. Because people haven't really discussed this enough to me. They don't ever say what their plan is. In their tweets, in their videos, nothing, nada. We continue support for Ukraine. We hate Putin. Okay. So what's your solution? Hold on. Whoa. I'm not a politician. I don't know about solutions and shit like that. I just know that we have to continue supporting Ukraine and we hate Putin. And I know that's how you get a bunch of retweets from neoliberals. And that's how you get aid from the USAID. Not anymore, but that's how you used to get it. So some of you may not have seen this, but the UK and France met with Zelensky to work out a ceasefire deal. It happened over the weekend. And I'm not going to lie to you. It basically just looks like the UK was there to do their sabotage thing. And it doesn't seem like, once again, it's a situation where they're claiming they want to end a war between two parties. Okay. But you're only inviting one side. Trump, to his credit, has talked to both sides and has tried to get both people in the room. Went to a neutral ground to talk to Putin. Invited Zelensky to speak to him in the White House. And said multiple times, like, y'all got to sit down. We got to get both of y'all together. Like, it's like, bro, the way that Zelensky and Biden, the Biden administration tried to handle it in the past, and in Europe has tried to handle it, like, it's like high school drama. Like, oh, I'm gonna go tell so-and-so that you said this. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go run and tell so-and-so that you said this. Instead of just having them meet in the same place. I'm gonna go text this person. I'm gonna go run over to this locker and go tell them that you said this. Okay, well, if you want to resolve the situation, why not just get them both in the same room? It's less drama that way. Well, we don't like that. Because then the problem might be resolved. We're not gonna have anything to talk about. Right? Like the US and the EU have been like the instigators of high school. Like they don't really want drama solved. They love the drama. They feed off of it. So they don't ever get the two people who have the drama in the same room. Unless it's to fight. Let's check out this article. London. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer rallied his European counterparts Sunday to shore up their borders and throw their full weight behind Ukraine as he announced outlines of a plan to end Russia's war. It's interesting that they say it's Russia's war. Because it ain't them doing all the time. But whatever. So this is what Starmer said. Every nation must contribute to that in the best way that it can, bringing different capabilities and support to the table, but all taking responsibility to act, all stepping up their own share of the burden, he said. Do y'all hear that rhetoric? It's a war between two countries. Now, we know that it's NATO's war, but does this sound like the rhetoric of somebody who is trying to maintain peace by, peace? Or somebody who is basically, once again, initiating or at least trying to continue a conflict through thinly veiled threats? Because that's what it sounds like to me. Starmer's exhortation to 18 fellow leaders that they need to do the heavy lifting for their own security comes 2 days after U.S. backing of Ukraine appeared in jeopardy when President Donald Trump lashed out at Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and said he wasn't grateful enough for America's support. The meeting had been overshadowed by the extraordinary scolding that took place on live television at the White House. Starmer used the opportunity as part of his broader effort to bridge the gap between Europe and the United States and also savage what it seemed to be the start of a peace process before Friday's spat. Starmer said he had worked with France and Ukraine on a plan to end the war and that the group of leaders, mostly from Europe, had agreed on 4 things. The steps towards peace would, listen to this. The steps towards peace keep aid flowing to Kiev and maintain economic pressure on Russia to strengthen Ukraine's hand. Okay, yes. Sounds peaceful, guys. Make sure Ukraine is at the bargaining table, and any peace deal must ensure its sovereignty and security. As if Ukraine has been kept out of the bargaining table. Who hasn't let them there? Everybody has seen them. He's been making rounds to every European country, and at least every European country with power, and the United States. Okay. And continue to arm Ukraine to deter future invasion. Y'all, does that sound like a fucking peace deal to y'all? Does that sound like a deal that Putin and Russia would take? Or does that sound like the whole reason this war started to begin with? It's like Starmer is purposely trying to sabotage peace talks between the two countries, like Boris Johnson did. A coalition of the willing. Just listen to this, y'all. This shit is crazy to me. I couldn't believe the title of this article. Ukraine, Russia, ceasefire plan. This ain't a ceasefire plan. Ain't nobody gonna cease fire and shit. A coalition of the willing. Finally, Starmer said that they would develop a coalition of the willing to defend Ukraine and guarantee peace. Not every nation will feel able to contribute, but that can't mean we sit back, he said. Instead, those willing to intensify planning now with real urgency. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, those who are willing will intensify planning now with real urgency. The UK is prepared to back with this with boots on the ground and planes in the air together with theirs. Ladies and gentlemen, how does this sound like the beginnings of a ceasefire deal? Doesn't this really actually sound like a proposal that could potentially lead to World War III? This is all Starmer. Now, we got, once again, keep this in context. It was the UK that helped to, it was Boris Johnson in the UK that helped to sabotage the Minsk agreement. They are the ones who sabotaged peace and peace talks to begin with. And it looks like they're trying to do the same thing. It is far from certain, yes it is, it is far from certain whether Russian President Vladimir Putin will accept any such plan, which Starmer said would require strong U.S. backing. Do y'all think about that? It is far from certain whether Russian President Vladimir Putin will accept any such plan, and that plan would require U.S. backing. Ladies and gentlemen, boy, you are dumb. Starmer, this man is an idiot. Starmer's an idiot. There's no way you said that shit with a serious face. Yeah, man, even though Trump has made it very fucking clear. He has made it very clear. He said he knows who holds the cards. And that basically, Russia's gonna get what the hell they want because they're winning. He knows that he said it during that exchange. You are gambling with World War III, Zelensky. So to prevent that, because war has not been good for the economy, he's like, yeah, nah, I'm not helping y'all with this shit. Y'all lost your minds. But you think that the United States is gonna help y'all with this? Did you invite the US to this conversation? Thank you, Wanda USA, for the super sticker. Appreciate you. But did you invite Trump before you just assumed that like he was going to help with this plan that will literally lead to World War III? If there is able to be a deal, if there is to be a stopping of the fighting, then that agreement has to be defended, because the worst of all outcome is that there is a temporary pause and then Putin comes again. Oh yeah, I didn't even say the funniest part. He believes that the temporary, it would be a 30-day ceasefire deal. He believes, ladies and gentlemen, that in order for any side to agree and push this forward, especially in the case of Ukraine, is that he wants all of that shit to happen for a temporary ceasefire deal. He wants to move troops on the ground. He wants to send airplanes and military, not just UK. He wants all the European countries who are backing Ukraine and the United States to send military troops, military weapons, and aid to ensure a temporary ceasefire gets passed. Ladies and gentlemen, what do y'all think will happen once all of that shit is there? After the 30 days are up. Because it would be a temporary ceasefire deal. What it sounds like to me is that Starmer is basically saying, yeah, let's do a temporary ceasefire deal to gear up for World War III, to make sure that Ukraine is prepared for more war, to replace the troops that Ukraine has lost from a war that they knew they couldn't win. Because the goal was to always find an excuse to put Western troops from NATO countries in Ukraine to fight Russia. Now, I don't know if Starmer's trying to start World War III, but I'm not going to lie. The UK was effectively behind World War I. The UK was a major component of why World War II was allowed to happen. And World War II wouldn't have happened if World War I didn't. Hitler would have never even came into fruition if we didn't invent the lies that led to going to war with Germany in World War I. Germany was not guilty of shit. It was a lie. Everything about them was a lie. Y'all do know, like World War, that is, ladies and gentlemen, we got to think about this because I need y'all to think about how, because somebody would say probably the UK would never, or this is insane. Yeah, but this is the UK. Like, yeah, this is actually par for the course for them. Starting world wars is par for the course for the United Kingdom. We invented lies, the UK and the United States, but it was the UK that was the architect. The US was, in that particular case, actually just following orders. If you go back and look at history, it was Lord Rothschild and the UK that knew Germany and Russia were economic threats, especially because the Tsar and the Kaiser were cousins and they were allies. So individually, they were superpowers economically and militarily, but together they were damn near unstoppable. And the UK, and specifically Lord Rothschild, could not have it. So they worked with the United States and Woodrow Wilson. They sent Sir House. It's like a shame to my last name. But Sir House, that was literally the guy who was like the liaison between Lord Rothschild and J.P. Morgan and Woodrow Wilson. They sent that man back and forth. They planned all that shit out together. They started lying about Germany. Then they crippled Germany after calling them evil and all that shit during the war. Right? Crippled Germany. They literally punished them for existing, ladies and gentlemen. For real, that happened. Okay. That is why Hitler galvanized Germany as a result of all the suffering that took place during and after the war. And the UK and the United States did nothing to prevent his rise. In fact, they emboldened him. They let him hold the Olympics after knowing he just conquered his fucking government. Knowing the Holocaust was happening. I mean, he's literally said, yeah, we're not letting Jews run. Yeah, okay, cool. We'll still hold the Olympics there. That's cool. Whatever. And it's not like they didn't know it was a big deal because there were several countries that protested the Olympics. They were going to do the Olympics in Spain, but the day that the Olympics in Spain was supposed to happen, as weird as that shit sounds, the Spanish Revolution started. I'm not even joking. Like the day it was going to be this huge thing in protest of the Olympics in Germany because they didn't want to be part of Hitler's Olympics. And somehow, yeah, the Spanish Revolution started on that day. I'm not even bullshit. That's real life. But obviously, who benefited the most? Now, UK did not benefit as much as they probably thought they would have after World War II. The United States came out on top when it came to that shit. But like their whole goal was to bring the United States back into the fold. That was the goal of World War I and World War II. That's what they were thinking was going to happen. And that did happen effectively. So anyone who believes that the UK doesn't have World War III on the table right now, you've lost your mind. That's what they do. It's what they've done. Fighting wars across borders is literally part of the fabric of British history. And getting the United States specifically to fund those wars, to be the insurance policy, if you will. That's how they've achieved wars in the past. Which is, of course, probably how they plan on doing so in the future. Because the UK is losing its prominence. Every time the United Kingdom starts to lose its prominence economically across the globe, World War. I'm dead at, like, that is a historical fact. So, if you're, I just once again think about this. Is why I say this reaction to Trump's conference with Zelensky. These reactions are absolutely insane. Whether it be Bernie Sanders and his unlimited funding, unlimited support, period, point blank, no caveat, or Starmer saying for a temporary 30-day ceasefire, we have to be willing to put our military on the ground in Ukraine. Oh, everybody in Europe and the United States. You got to be able to put your boots on the ground in Ukraine and believe that somehow Putin would agree to that, which he would never. Bro, why would I literally start a war with Ukraine to stop them from joining NATO just to let every single NATO every single NATO power put boots on the ground in Ukraine? I think that y'all believe Putin wants this ceasefire. I'm sure he wants to enter the war. Only if that means the sovereignty of Russia. Protecting the sovereignty of Russia is his goal. Y'all think that he wants to end to a war more than he does. I'm sure, as much as he wants to save lives, he is more than willing to keep fucking Ukraine up until they bend the knee. Like, I mean, I firmly believe that. They're winning. They're winning, and he has Trump on his side now. And if things escalate, if there is a threat and a belief that things will escalate, if Democrats take back over because of their desire to keep pushing this war and pushing this war and pushing this war, then a Republican will win again. Whoever, because it is becoming very obvious to everybody, ladies and gentlemen, that we are not far from what happens in the next several months or the next couple of years, but I really believe maybe the next several months could determine our trajectory. It would mean no world war or absolutely world war. No in between. And that's facts. Let's change gears real quick. Epstein Files, or lack thereof. Once again, I hate to be like, yeah, I told y'all. But they're already making excuses, y'all. They're already making excuses. First, it was the whole, let's invite all the Republican influencers, or really the conservative influencers, to the White House and give them binders full of redacted names, and it was just 200 pages of shit we already knew. I mean, they literally had conservative influencers being like, yeah, y'all going to be kind of disappointed with this. This isn't what we thought it was. It was a photo op. The Trump administration said that we would be getting transparency when it came to the Epstein Files. Pam Bondi said we would be having transparency, that she was requesting the thousands of documents that were not included with the Epstein Files the FBI initially gave to her, despite her requesting all the documents. So it went from, yeah, we're absolutely going to release the files, to this.
Maybe some people don't know. What are the things that, and maybe some.
Hold on 1 second.
What are the things that, and maybe some people don't understand the need to redact. In the case of a victim, that should be pretty obvious to people. What are the
already making excuses?
The other things that maybe you would have to redact?
Well,
national security.
No, of course, national security, some grand jury information, which is always going to be confidential. But we'll see. Let's look through them as fast as we can. Get it out to the American people, because the American people have a right to know, not only on that, but on Kennedy, on Martin Luther King, on all of these cases that the Biden administration has just sat on for all these years.
You see, I just try to move the goalpost there. Try to move it to the Biden administration sitting on them.
So yeah, it's really, it's not sad. It's infuriating that these people thought that they could sit on this information, but they can't. It's a new day, and we believe in
that. You notice how she just kind of like changed the conversation to something that it wasn't. We weren't talking about sitting on the information.
Transparency, and it's going to come out. And when we redact things, Sean, what we're going to do is not just pull pages out like they used to do. If something's redacted, you will know the line and you will know why it's redacted.
That's how redactions work. So they're already using the excuse national security reason. So let me be clear about something. Really, that's not like, I guess, no, actually, no. She really shouldn't be answering questions about this. Now, in my opinion, she shouldn't be on cable news answering questions about this unless it's purely for PR purposes. Unless they've already made a decision about what they're going to do. And I'm explaining to you why. Because she's the attorney general. This isn't the head of the FBI. She's not part of the intelligence community. Okay? National security, as far as the attorney general is concerned, should only be a factor if you are trying to figure out how or what you're going to charge somebody with and what punishment you are seeking. So I just want to be clear about that. But you see how he teed that up? Like, oh, it's so people don't get mad at Trump and his administration and Kash Patel and you. What are some reasons that things might be redacted? We're not asking for names of victims, y'all. No one has said, oh yeah, we expect to see the names of every victim. We're not stupid. We expect to see the names of grand jury members. Under normal circumstances, if that is always anonymous, that's fine. Y'all know what the hell we asking for. Y'all know what we're asking to see. And if we're in a stage of our quote unquote experiment of democracy, which really isn't, but whatever. If we're at the stage of our democracy where our national security is dependent on protecting the identity of powerful politicians who've engaged in sex trafficking and pedophilia, then we need to destroy the system. It needs to be completely and totally dismantled. National security? Are you kidding me? In what world? If the answer should have been, well, no, this can't affect our national security. Yeah, like our government wasn't involved. But we know that's not the case. They're already coming up with excuses. We're going to go through this as fast as possible, blah, 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 blah. Really? We're going to tell you why it was redacted. And da-da-da-da. Oh, here we go. we're not going to take out entire pages. We don't care about that. Pam, the Attorney General, should not be speaking on this because once you get these documents, unless I missed that part, once you get these documents, your very next suggestion should be who the fuck is getting prosecuted. Your very next call should be the U.S. Attorney Generals across country. Your very next call should be attorneys general around the world. Your very next move should be to start an investigation and put together cases against every single name that comes up. That should be, hell, if it involves national security for some fucking reason, that's really for Kash Patel to deal with and for him to talk about. Or, Tulsi or the director of CIA. But the fact that they got the Attorney General coming out here like putting on this show lets me know. That's exactly what I was going to say. Sparky guy hit the nail right on the head. Isn't it protecting the identity of Israel? That is exactly right. See, Kash Patel actually came out this weekend on Twitter and did this super weird like reaffirmation of, oh yeah, we're always going to stand with Israel. Like, what? Why are you tweeting that shit out, bro? Like, you're the head of the FBI. Like, mind your fucking business. There's nothing like, what are you doing? Why are you so obsessed with standing? Whoever the U.S. does and does not stand with really should be of no concern to the FBI outside of like just being aware of who your allies are and who you're not. Why are you publicly reaffirming your support for another country as if you're being blackmailed? As if you're sending out a signal? Because what have we said from the beginning? There's no way in hell Israel is going to allow these Epstein files to drop when we all know the worst kept secret in the world, which is that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were working for the Mossad. When Alex Acosta, the judge who handled the original Epstein case in Florida, and then became part of the Trump administration later on, had to resign because the world was mad at him for giving a sweetheart deal when he had no choice. They told him, yeah, you're going to give this plea deal to Epstein. You're not going to say anything about it. And it's because it's above your pay grade and he works for the intelligence community. He told the world. And he was forced to resign for telling it, like, hey, look, this is what happened. I'm keeping it in a band with you. They told him to shut up, look front. This is the deal you're going to give. We know that Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, was an invaluable asset to the Mossad in the country of Israel. That's what they said at his funeral. Everybody, all the major Israeli and Zionist and Mossad bigwigs were at Robert Maxwell's funeral. We know that Ghislaine Maxwell recruited Jeff Epstein. And we know the names that have already popped up that haven't been held accountable, that haven't been scrutinized to the degree that they should have been. I'm sure that there's more and there are details. But not only are the names of these people not being dropped, not only are they not being prosecuted, not only, once again, we always talk about this when it comes to Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. How have both of them been found guilty of human trafficking, but nobody has been found guilty of participating in said sexual acts? Like they were guilty of trafficking kids to nobody? How does that work? So yeah, the names are important, but what's really important is why did they have such a massive network of blackmail, and who were they blackmailing on behalf of? Who were you blackmailing? You committed one of the most egregious crimes. I mean, just legally and morally and ethically. And you are doing so on behalf of somebody with the help of countries to help you get away with it. To gain favors with powerful people. And if the world found out, if they found out, because they said national security, that's a possibility. Things would be redacted for national security reasons. And if you think that Hannity said that unprompted, nah, that was that. Why would things with Epstein be redacted? Because national security? What? Why would you say that first? Why would that be the first thing that comes to your mind? Because somebody told them to say that. They teed it up. If the world found out that Epstein was working on behalf of Israel, oh, Jesus. Like, a lot of people know that, but not a lot of people know. A lot of us know, because we know because we follow this stuff. The average person does not know that. The average person doesn't know that Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was working directly for the Mossad. And Ghislaine Maxwell obviously was too. And that she recruited Epstein. Some people believe that it was actually Epstein who recruited her, and that anything she did was the bidding of Epstein, and it was quite the opposite. People don't know. And on top of that, the other reason that it could potentially violate or incriminate the United States and put our quote unquote national security at risk is if the United States was complicit, which is highly likely given AIPAC's influence. I mean, I don't need to go into all that. We already know. If they were complicit or even contributed. Right? Or hell, might be other countries that were complicit, at least, and contributed at the worst. Other intelligence communities that were complicit or contributed. Right? In other words, if your national security is dependent on protecting pedophiles, once again, that's it. You are a failed state. Right? It gotta go. I don't know what comes next, but whatever it is gotta be better than your national security depending on the protection of pedophiles. Because if that's the case, you are done. It's over. There's nothing left. There's no humanity to protect. You can no longer pretend. The gig has already been up. We already know what the United States is. We already know what Israel is. We know what these superpowers are. We know the things that they've done. But if it comes out in official documents, y'all, it will be a shit show. I mean, and it should be. It should be. The reactions would be insane. They would be overwhelmed. I mean, I don't know how I don't even know how to explain. Because the average person was so disgusted with when they found out about the Epstein stuff to begin with. They were disgusted to the point where YouTube and social media, they started censoring everything. I got my channel demonetized and I received a temporary ban for bullying Epstein. And I was not the only one. And that was before they knew the U.S. government was involved. That was just when they knew a couple politicians were involved, but they were like, oh, it just looks like a bunch of powerful people who got caught up doing some Diddy shit. Imagine if they found out, no, it was deliberate. It was on behalf of Israel, or if it was on behalf of the United States, or both. And these politicians all knew it and did nothing. And that is why we have been defending genocide. Because they've been not just paid to do so, they've been blackmailed. And it also lets us know that whatever we thought, however bad we thought it was, it's infinitely worse than that. Because they were gun-ho as shit about releasing these Epstein files. Kash Patel and Pam Bondi, they just had their chests out. Like, we're going to do what they would never do. Ain't nobody going to stop us. And if she looks in that video, she looks like she got a phone call. The same phone call that they all get. Right? That same phone call. You thought, yeah, motherfucker, you thought when it comes to RFK, when it comes to JFK, when it comes to MLK, all the case. And how we know that, at least in two of those situations, Israel was directly involved. MLK and RFK. If all that dropped at the same time, like, oh, okay, so y'all got this dude doing human trafficking to blackmail politicians, and y'all assassinate our presidents and future presidents and politicians, the fuck? That would be it. You could no longer pretend to defend Israel. There's nothing that they could say or do. AIPAC would probably be excommunicated from the country, or they would probably just rebrand. That's what they tend to do, right? But it wouldn't be AIPAC anymore. That's for damn sure. You couldn't get, and Trump would be put in an impossible position. And even with all that Israeli money he be getting, even with all the censorship he does on behalf of Israel, it don't matter. All that shit will go out the window because you're no longer winning the PR battle. And once you lose a PR battle, that's it. Right? Trump can talk all the shit he wants to, and even Biden to some degree can talk all the shit they want to about Netanyahu, because Netanyahu is losing a PR battle. But they believe Israel is still useful and still has control, because Israel, the country, does still have an inordinate amount of control over international politics. They know that. But Netanyahu has bad PR. So we can call out Netanyahu, but we cannot call out Israel. Speaking of which, MAGA people, where y'all at? Let's have a conversation real quick. Let me talk to you. Let me talk to you real quick. Y'all explain this shit to me real quick. All federal funding will stop for any college, school, or university that allows illegal protests. The fuck is an illegal protest, y'all? What is that? Agitators will be imprisoned or permanently sent back to the country they're from. American students will be permanently expelled. Interesting. Didn't know that they had that kind of power. Depending on your crime, arrested. No masks. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That sound like free speech to y'all? So it's free speech for thee, but not for me. Wasn't it the same man complaining about infringements on free speech? People have had the audacity to call this man a free speech champion. Wasn't it Pam Bondi and other conservatives? Like Pam Bondi just got done talking about transparency, and other conservatives talking about this is going to be the most transparent, open administration. And you come out just saying, fuck the First Amendment, basically, on behalf of another country. Ladies and gentlemen, I need y'all to do the math for me. How can America be first if it's actually Israel that comes first? They both can't be first. They can't both be first, guys. It can't be, literally, we can't follow our Constitution and do the bidding of Israel. It is literally impossible because of how criminal Israel actually is. This is why I said at the beginning, every time Trump does something remotely good, he undermines it by dick pulling Israel, by doing Israel's bidding. Whether it be allowing the unnecessary and counterproductive redactions of the Epstein Files, or doing the partial release of the Epstein Files to begin with as a PR stunt without saying anything. Because he was the one who said he's going to release shit. It was him. Him? The people who work for his administration? Y'all the ones who made a big deal about releasing it. We assumed that nobody was going to do it. We assumed that. We were like, yeah, we're not getting that shit. You're the one who brought the topic back up. And then whenever all the backtracking starts from the people in your administration, you're nowhere to be found. Why? Israel. Then you're going to come around and stomp on free speech. And people like J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard and others who are supposedly free speech absolutists, y'all know where to be found when he's doing shit like this. And what's even more disgusting, I ain't seen no interviews from Democrats. I've been waiting, y'all. I'm like, oh, okay, so we're gonna see some interviews from Democrats talking about this, right? Because this is your chance, guys. This is your chance to go hard at Trump. But they won't do it. Because it was Democrats who voted to try and contort the meaning of anti-Semitism in order to condemn it on college campuses. It's blue cities that the protests are happening in, where these kids are getting arrested and have been kicked out of college already in some cases. Having to sue to get their way back. It's blue cities where presidents from colleges and universities are getting removed. All on behalf of Israel, ladies and gentlemen. Does that not scare the living shit out of you? How can you be MAGA? And by the way, I do gotta give, once again, I gotta give credit where credit's due. There's like a couple of MAGA people like with big platforms who are against this. But it's like Candace once again, and like a couple of others. But like, this is one of those instances where y'all should be in unison, be like, hey man, look, I rock with you, but nope, hell no. And it's because there was a lot of MAGA people. I need y'all to remember during Biden's administration, there were a lot of MAGA people who came out against the genocide. It was once again, Dave Smith being one of them. I was kind of like, oh shit, I didn't really know that he was a Trump guy until I found, like, because he was so avidly against the genocide. I had no idea he was going to vote for Trump until later. There have been so many people until Trump got in office. And then it was, zoop, nope, can't mess with money up. Nope, can't criticize Trump. So I want y'all to remember this. Whenever Democrats get back into power, where, like, for example, where's RFK at? RFK had went viral because he talked about the rampant censorship Congress was engaging in during his testimony, the censorship of his campaign, the censorship by the technocracy, really. Censoring his channel, his YouTube channel, censoring his tweets, censoring his Facebook, etc., taking down his posts. And how the Biden administration was instrumental in that. Wasn't the Republicans complaining about how the Biden administration was instrumental in working with social media companies to censor? Weren't they complaining about that, like, I don't know, fucking yesterday? Where's Elon? Mr. Free Speech. Wasn't he the guy who's supposed to save social media from the attacks on free speech? Yeah, we know that was bullshit. The moment that this war started, they got his ass. They said, like, Elon, now you know how much stuff we got on you, dog. You might as well go ahead and shut that shit down right now. Go ahead and start suspending those accounts. Come take this trip to Israel. Take this trip to Auschwitz. Sit down with Ben Shapiro and shut the hell up. Play your role. They knew. They already knew it, Elon. That man went from being accused of being anti-Semitic to saying, you know, I'm kind of Jewish myself. He was being accused. Like, remember the ADL was on his head. They were calling that man anti-Semitic. It went from Elon's anti-Semitic to I'm kind of Jewish, you know. Not officially, but I've always been a fan. I'm Jewish by extension. Yeah, but y'all not worried about this? Y'all know what's worrisome to me? This could all probably once again be tracked back to the Epstein Files. I'm not saying necessarily that I don't know if Trump actually participated in those acts. However, it demonstrates how powerful Israel actually is. Like, if you're reading the JFK files and you're a president, you're the sitting president, you don't get a little scared. You're like, hold up, y'all did this to JFK? And everybody in the government at the time knew? And y'all still got away with it? Y'all assassinated RFK and everybody in the government knew and y'all still got away with it? The FBI has been sitting on these files. The Justice Department has been sitting on these files and y'all got away with it? Yeah, he probably a little scared. Because that's what's scared. Trump is the type of guy who really doesn't bend the knee to anybody, at least publicly. He doesn't do these public bouts of like humiliation rituals, because that's basically the only thing. Like, it's a humiliation ritual, in my opinion, because this is literally contradictory to everything he claims to represent. And he's like, I'm gonna do this on behalf of a foreign nation. It's what's wild to me. He can't sit down and talk to Russia about peace without the entire Western fucking world being on his head about his loyalty to a foreign nation. But he can suspend people, arrest students, send students back to their country for protesting genocide on behalf of another country, and everybody. Anybody gonna say something? Yeah, nope, can't do that. Can't do that. Where's Bernie's video about that? Where's Chuck Schumer's video about that? Where's that spicy AOC interview? Nobody getting invited on to talk about that? Where's Rachel Maddow's monologue? Nobody, huh? No pearl clutching? Even though y'all can use Netanyahu as an excuse if y'all want. Y'all can hide behind him. Because he's dealing with all these corruption hearings that y'all still, which is also weird that nobody's talking about. Because if Putin was dealing with a multitude of corruption charges and going through hearings on a monthly basis, we would never hear the end of it. But y'all have an opportunity to get Trump and go after Netanyahu and actually be on the right side of history. Where are y'all at? And the fact that Israel has that much power doesn't scare the shit out of y'all. That doesn't scare you. Like, I don't know. It angers me. It does. But it also scares me because we all know Trump's personality. He is willing to think about, we have a real life comparison of Trump when he is not working on behalf of Israel and how he's all of a sudden castrated the moment he starts dealing with anything to do with Israel. We have a real life. He is willing to literally go against the entire world to do peace talks with Russia. He's like, yeah, I really don't give a fuck about none of y'all. I could give two fucks about any of y'all opinions. I will leave NATO right now. That's how he's been handling this situation with Russia. I'll leave NATO. Bitch, they started, y'all know Zelensky and Ukraine were supposed to receive funding from the State Department to repair their energy grid. Yeah, nope, not anymore. Got canceled. State Department announced it. Prime Minister of Poland allegedly came out today and said that they are not seeing any more weapons flow to Ukraine from the United States, at least. Now, supposedly, 2-3 weeks ago, that wasn't the case. They said that even with the 90-day aid freeze, that Ukraine will continue to still receive weapons. Yeah, that apparently is not the case anymore. And he's like, man, we'll get the fuck out of NATO. Their Trump aides even saying, like, yeah, man, maybe we should leave. We already know Trump don't like NATO as it is, but like, he is literally going against the entire Western world over this Russia situation. Don't give a shit. And doing it casually, y'all. But bring up Israel. Nope. Gotta suspend him. Put him in jail. Kick him out the country. Illegal protest. What is an illegal protest? There is no such thing as an illegal protest. Somebody can do something illegal at a protest, but it is inherently anti-constitutional to call a protest illegal. And by the way, I don't give a shit about this whole, because they love to warp and contort the Constitution to fit their agenda. So it's like, oh, well, you didn't get permits, excuse me. Bitch, it's a protest. I'm not about to ask permission to protest some shit. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. That's dumb as shit, y'all. But literally, there are multiple states where you have to request permits in advance to do a protest. Motherfucker, that is not how a protest. Hey, Cobra Commander. Exactly. Did you remember to get your permit? Because this protest is illegal if you didn't get. Nigga, fuck you. I ain't about to ask permission to say fuck you. It's fuck you. That's why I'm here. To let you know that I don't give a shit if you like it or not. I don't like what you're doing, and I don't give a shit if you approve if I like what you're doing. Change the shit. But he talking about expelling students. How do you don't have that power? That's ridiculous. Bro, I dare a college to expel a student for protesting a genocide. Boy, you want to go broke quick? Go ahead, do that shit. Do that. Bruh, you gonna make sure that kid doesn't even have to finish college to be rich. That's exactly what's gonna happen. If you expel a student for protesting a genocide, you are going to go broke. Because these students are going to start suing the shit out of you. And y'all can hide behind Trump's tweets all you want to. It's not going to matter. Because it's going to be handled in civil courts. He's not even going to make it. Yeah, y'all can appeal all you want to. It's probably not going to make it to Supreme Court. You'd be surprised I'd be surprised if it makes it to a state Supreme Court. Y'all going to get sued. You're going to lose. And these kids are going to get rich for doing the right thing. That's a fact. I'm just letting you know right now. So go ahead and make some kids' day. I wish that Trump would have pulled this shit when I was in college, because, boy, as soon as I saw this tweet, bet that. Hey, y'all, where you going, motherfucker? I'm going to protest genocide right now. We all about to get rich, because I wish somebody would expel me for protesting genocide. You done lost your mind if you think that's a good idea. You're not going to be able to get away with that. I don't care about how many tweets Trump puts out. I don't care about how many speeches, grandstanding that these Zionists do in Congress or at the UN or wherever, on television. Try that shit and watch what happens. Y'all gonna go broke. From Harvard to Fayetteville State University, from the Ivy Leagues to the HBCUs, to the technical community college. If you want to go broke, listen to that man. Because I doubt that man is going to show up at your civil lawsuit in bumfuck nowhere, USA, to stop your ass from getting sued. Because that's what's going to happen. But once again, outside of that, the reality is that this type of behavior from Trump should terrify you. It should terrify you. If I'm MAGA, you have to know the majority of the things that you want will, because I know there is I would say the majority of MAGA is actually anti-war. That is one issue that a lot of us agree on. Some of them might engage in some regime change rhetoric, and be unwilling to, or unknowing tools of imperialism, because I feel like engaging in rhetoric is being an unknowing tool. However, they'll still be like, yeah, but even if I don't believe that, I don't believe we should go to war with Venezuela, for example. I don't believe we should go to war with Iran, for example. So the majority of them are anti-war. A lot of them were against bombing Syria over that bullshit, that lie that they told about Assad. A lot of them are and were against genocide. It's just a lot of them aren't speaking up as loud as they should be. Not like they were. But as long as Israel is calling the shots, the majority of the goals, like transparency with the Epstein Files, transparency with JFK and RFK Files, the protection of free speech, draining the swamp, if you will. Cause it ain't like it's just Trump. So you got Trump running the show, and then you got Elon running the tech. He's running the technocracy now. It's him. That boy got our government, and even is trying to get other Western governments in his hands. And he's doing it all knowing that Israel could tell him which levers to pull at any given moment, and he has to follow the rules. He has to listen to them. And that man didn't even get confirmed by the Senate. Think about that. Because I don't believe every politician is actually working on behalf of Trump. Like, I don't believe that they're working in his best interest. Like, they're not trying to represent his interests. They're pretending that they want to represent his interests because they know how popular he is. He's an economy. Like I always say, they're aware of that. So you got to deal with that on a daily basis. People who are simply feigning to do the positive things that Trump wants to do. Not everything he wants to do is positive. And the majority, I would say probably 60 to 70% of the things he wants to do is not positive. However, unfortunately, the reality is if he achieved 30% of his goals that would actually be good, like that are actually, I would consider to be good things, like ending the war in Russia is a pretty significant achievement. Not starting any new wars and pulling out of some of the military conflicts that we're engaged in would be another positive thing. Like, if he achieved 30%, bruh, that would be more than any president. As shitty as he would be, that would still make him the best president in history. But you have no chance of achieving that 30% of positivity if Israel is the one he's answering to. That is why you have to hold him accountable. Sparky, did I miss you? I might have missed it. Let me see. Oh, I think I did miss it. Were Bondi and Patel so pro-Zionist they were among the few naive enough to believe, to not have a clue about Israel's involvement with Epstein? Otherwise, they wouldn't have hyped the release of the files so much. That's actually a possibility because they're both relatively young, and I feel like Bondi was picked because she like this. Not for nothing. Like what? She's the youngest attorney general in history, right? Let me make sure. I don't want to lie to y'all, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. She's 59. Yeah, I think she might be. Let me. Oh no, Richard Rush was the youngest attorney general in history. He was. Hold on. I don't want to lie to y'all. Hold on, what? Declaration of the 13 study law. Oh, nah. He was appointed Attorney General of the United States under Madison in 1814. Well, how old was he? Was he 14? What? There's no way. Oh, no, he was like 24. That's insane. I don't even know if that would be possible now. Yeah, okay. So anyway, in modern history, she would be the youngest. But in all of history, it would be the 8th Attorney General, Rush Richard. Anyway, fun facts for life. Richard Rush, excuse me. But my point is, she's relatively young. And she got the position basically from being Trump's defense attorney. So it's not like this. She's not like a politically astute individual. And as much as we would love to believe that the attorney general is a politically objective position, it is not. We know that politics plays a huge role in the attorney general position. It shouldn't, and it's not supposed to. But like, let's be real, right? Like Republican presidents pick Republican attorneys general, and Democratic presidents pick Democratic attorney general. If it wasn't a political position, then every attorney general wouldn't align with the party of the president. That's the problem whenever like your state attorney general is elected, but for some reason the attorney general that will determine the precedents going forward is somehow appointed. That seems to directly undercut democracy if you actually think about it. But that's a different conversation for a different day. You already know how I feel about that. Don't get me started. So it is very possible, Sparky, that they are so Zionist and so young and naive and so wide-eyed that they didn't know. That is a huge possibility. They're like, yeah, and we're going to release the Epstein Files. Yeah. And the JFK Files. Yeah. RFK Files too. Yeah. We'll ever throw that Negro in there. MLK. Ah. Unredacted. Israel makes a phone call. You gonna do what, motherfucker? Hold on real quick. You sit your Indian ass here. You know whose team you play for? You know you play for us, right? Oh, okay. And Pam, you bring your ass over here too. Fucking AG Barbie. Who you think you are? You gonna release what? No, what you gonna do is you gonna take your ass on Sean Hannity's show and you gonna explain to everybody it's a national security issue. You gonna say the same script that everybody else said. We can't release the files because it's a national security issue. It is an issue for the national intelligence community to deal with. Okay? All right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, massa. Would you like me to put on a yarmulke too? Because I can do that. No, that's not necessary. That'd be too obvious, too on the nose. Just go on there and review the script. And here are 200 pages of exactly what's already been released. You're going to convince them. Now you got to convince them that you are actually going to do the shit so that you could continue to be a useful idiot for us. Because now nobody's going to believe you. So here's 200 pages of the exact same thing that's already been released. Now get the fuck out of my office. Welcome to APAC. Get out of my office. It is it's very possible. I don't know. But it's, like I said, every time I do research on Epstein and in these files and APAC, and you look at the news that comes out about anything Israel from other countries, we already know how horrible Israel is, but it's just like the complicity, not just the complicity, like aiding them, going out of your way to show loyalty. Like, why do we have, once again, the director of the FBI? We are going to forever be loyal to Israel. We love him so much. We would never betray you. Why did you tweet that out, motherfucker? Like, that's so weird. That has nothing to do with your job. Why are you tweeting that out? Because it's part of the job. Thomas Massey, in an interview, I believe it was with Tucker Carlson, if I'm not mistaken, he came out and said AIPAC likes to give homework to every single senator and every single congressman. They like to give homework. And they do little tests to see if they can get you to do work for them. And it starts off with small stuff. And then it generally increases in impact the longer you stay in Congress and the more that they give to you. Just to see if you're willing to play ball. And if you're not, you know what happens. You get redistrict. You get like they'll run a campaign against you. If like they can't do that, then they'll send them McKinney you. They'll literally tear your district up. Thomas Massie talked about it. I'm telling you, bro. Thomas, he's a Republican, but Thomas Massie is the only person in the entire government that I trust. I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I surely am a conspiracy theorist because 98% of the fucking conspiracies have been true. So yes, I'm a conspiracy theorist. This man came out against AIPAC, said I'll never fucking serve AIPAC. Fuck y'all. And his wife dies. That is insane. And what is the thing that he does like 2 weeks later? Comes out even harder against AIPAC in Israel. That man is a damn G. Thomas Massie is a congressional gangster. He don't give a shit about any threats. He said, bitch, I live off the grid. I power my own house. And I'm the engineer of all of it. I'm the one who runs this show. He literally lives off the grid. I'm not even joking. That's just real life. That's real facts. He got a self-sustainable house. He could disappear today and be all right. He don't care. And he told the truth. And he's the only one really in Congress. Why AOC never said anything like that about AIPAC. Ilhan Omar never said anything like that about AIPAC. Like, he telling like, I like people who actually will tell you like the details. Because the details do matter. Like, say like, yeah, here's what they do. Like, they start giving you homework. Like, they treat you like a fucking kid. They tell you, hey, you got to do this. And whenever he said, I don't want to do that. That's too much work. He said, I didn't like doing my own homework at school. They said, well, just copy Rand Paul's work. Just write this, copy directly from Rand Paul, and we'll just use that and put your name on it. He said, no, I'm not doing that. Because they just wanted to see if he would do it, if he would follow orders. For real. It's scary, bro. It's that we don't have control of our government. Our government has been kidnapped by a country that isn't even real. It's an imaginary place. Israel is imaginary. It is an imaginary country. I don't know how else to put it, but it is. It's a fake country that was stolen from Palestine. And if I was MAGA, like, I don't gotta tell leftists, I don't gotta tell anti-imperialist leftists about this, because we're gonna stand on business when it comes to free speech and when it comes to calling out Israel regardless. I don't really gotta tell them. But y'all guys still in power. We're not running the show right now. We're gonna hold him accountable, but what does it mean? He's just gonna it's radical leftists. It's radical leftists that are calling me out. It's only the radical leftists, the anti-Semites. But if his own people, if his own influencers came out in droves and in unison and like, nah, bro, look, we might disagree and you might even support Israel. That would be insane. But even if you do, but like, we gotta, this is you talking about stomping on the Constitution now on behalf of a foreign country. We gotta stop that with respect. Because you can criticize your leaders with respect. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't mean you hate them. But, like, that should scare the hell out of you, not because of this issue. Maybe you've already graduated. Maybe you don't have to worry about that. That's not the issue. The issue is what comes next. That is always the biggest issue. It's like a gate. It's like whenever Alex Jones got censored on all platforms simultaneously, out of nowhere. And we said, oh, okay, we know what's coming next. Massive censorship on a massive scale. And it's going to be coordinated. And that's why we said, yo, y'all don't think this is crazy? This is insane. They didn't even give a reason, really. They said, oh, he violated terms of services or the condition. Like, hold up. He violated all of y'all's terms of services agreement at the same time? Including the Apple Store. They took his app off the Apple Store. So Facebook, Twitter, the Apple Store, Amazon servers, Instagram, TikTok. I mean, I want to even Facebook. Not Facebook, excuse me. Even YouTube banned him, right? At the time. He might be banned now, but he was banned at the time. Like, he violated all y'all terms of service at the same time. Oh, no, y'all setting that man up to see how we will react. Y'all want to see if we're going to be okay with this. Y'all want to see how we're going to react in the future. Just like with the curfews during COVID. They wanted it was about shutting down protests, really. It had nothing to do with the pandemic, but they used it for the pandemic after. They said, let's say it's for protests to protect the people, and then say it's for the pandemic after, and see what happens. See if people protest this shit. See if people stay out anyway. See if people accept it. And a lot of people did. So now they know in the future they can use that. We can say whatever we want, and we'll say it's for their best interest, and we'll put a curfew on people, whether it be for protests or pandemics. Either one works. It's always about what they plan on doing. It's always about the next move. Because if you're not the victim this time, you can assure you will be the victim the next time or in the near future. That's how it works. That's history. That is U.S. history. I can't talk enough about how the censorship shit has been basically a game of trading blows between the Republicans and Democrats. It's been on both sides. I can't talk about how shutting down protests and putting people in jail for literally protesting has cut on both sides. Once again, if you're a Democrat, all Republican protests are illegal and problematic and neo-Nazi. And if you're a Republican, it's all extreme leftists and domestic terrorists, and et cetera, et cetera. Anti-Semites, whatever. It's on both sides. I don't have to go back that far in history to tell you that. It will be you that will be the victim eventually. Go back 4 years. There were people from the January 6th protests that were being held up in prison without being charged with anything, without an arraignment, ladies and gentlemen. Because they didn't have anything to really charge them with other than being at a protest. You will be next. It will, that's what happened. So if he's doing this to protect Israel now, on behalf of Israel now, let's pray that Israel don't want a war with somebody specific. Because we know how that goes. Right? Because it ain't just Trump, once again. It's his whole administration. It's all of them. And Trump, one thing he won't do is go against his entire administration. Because they will turn on him. And I don't know how he will react. But if Trump turned on his administration on behalf of the American people instead of on behalf of Israel, shit, he would actually end up getting a lot of support. He would be admired for that. Hell, MAGA would come out in droves to support him for that shit. They would love to be able to say he's the one who stood up to Israel. Just letting you know, Trump, in case you got somebody who watches the show, I know a couple people that's been in your office do watch my show. So if you want some advice, you want to be the most popular president in history for real, stand up to Israel. Don't keep doing their bidding, bro. Stand up to him. Cause, I mean, shit, what you gonna do? Lose the next election? What are they gonna do? Impeach you again? What are they gonna do? Give you felony? Like, bro, you done got everything that they could have done to you, except for they even tried to assassinate you, and you somehow got out unscathed. Like, shit. Also, if you go out because you stood up to Israel, bruh, you already what? About to be 80 years old? Shit, there's no better way to go out. You've done everything. You want to go out as the most popular president in history next to JFK? Bruh, they erase a lot of the shit that JFK did that was bad. How he got elected and his involvement with mob bosses and all kinds of shit. Because he stood up to Israel. He eventually befriended MLK. And he challenged the intelligence community. All the other shit got erased. Memory hold that shit. Just saying. Think about it. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of For the People podcast. Make sure y'all like this video. Make sure you share. Make sure you subscribe. Subscribe. Let me go ahead and post my Telegram in the chat. I'm going to post my Telegram link. Y'all subscribe to get notifications, updates on content, breaking news, when I'm going to go live, all that good stuff. Y'all make sure to follow me on Twitter, which I will also post in the chat. And make sure y'all follow Hotspot. Y'all know stay dropping heat on Hotspot. Hold on, let me post that link in the chat too. You can support the show by joining Patreon or becoming a channel member. The links of both of those are also in the description of the video. Supporters there would be a huge help because y'all know YouTube be censoring this shit. And most of our videos, I would say probably half our videos get demonetized. So appreciate you guys. Subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. Come back and leave a comment after the live stream is done to help boost us in the algorithm. Go check out some of our other stuff too. Check out some other content. I got a lot of videos that we put up last week or so. So check them out. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. And always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.